Yo, what's good everybody? It's me, That Weeb here, back with part 6 now for What If Naruto Was the Juggernaut. The last part of this was 2 months ago, so we're going to get into a little recap before we get into the story. So I hope you guys, if you like this What If and like my channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button, comment down below what you think of the video, and like the video. Hit the notification bell for more videos in the future, as well as if you want to, you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button to join the channel and become part of the weebdom. But anyway, let's just get right into this part for What If Deku Was the Juggernaut. As a quick recap of what happened last time, Deku had absolutely destroyed Bakugo in combat, as he had literally shoved him into the concrete of the ground like a vegetable and then pulled him back up again. Bakugo was now sitting in a comfortable second place, as now we see that Deku has taken the victory out of under his rug. Now, Bakugo is pretty angry about this, but it's not anything new to him, as ever since they had been younger, Deku, whose quirk had made him physically superior, had always been the winning at things, so Bakugo's a bit more humble in this timeline than he was in the original. Anyway, getting back to the story now, Deku, as he now has finished the sports festival in first place, has many offers to come and join their work study. Deku is also offered to have a work study with someone who All Might had told him was named Gran Torino. Gran Torino would be interested in meeting Deku as the new user of One For All, as Deku in this timeline would have One For All along with his main quirk Juggernaut. Deku would get on the train as he takes up 5 seats all by himself, with many people having to stand as they don't want to get in front of his way. He would wave goodbye to Ida, as well as the rest of his friends as he goes on his way. A few days before that, Deku had been talking with Ida and Uraraka as they had finally finished the sports festival. Ida had this look in his eyes that seemed darker than usual, as if though something had gone very wrong. Deku would think that he was thinking about how he had lost in the sports festival, and he would pat Ida on the back rather hard as Ida goes into the ground a little, as he tells him to cheer up and that he can always try to win next year. Ida would look over and give a faint smile as he then says he'll see Deku and Uraraka after the training with the work studies would be over. As he walks away, Deku would go off, not realizing anything was wrong. Uraraka would go to Death Gun's training, as well as everyone would go to their regular, as in the original. Bakugo, when he meets with Best Jeanist, however, wouldn't have to deal with the hair treatment, as, however, he is still hot-headed in this timeline. He doesn't think that he's better than everyone else, as he's been defeated by Deku numerous times. Now, back to Deku. Deku is finally made it to Gran Torino's area. As he walks into the front door, he sees that the place is in complete disarray. There's pizza boxes on the floor, and the fridge is left open. He quickly rushes over and closes the fridge, as he sees Gran Torino laying on the ground with what appears to be blood leaking out of him. Ah! Deku would say as he rushes over to check if Gran Torino's alright, and he then thinks that he's dead. Gran Torino would look up and say, "Just kidding," as he wipes the ketchup off of himself. Deku would sigh as he thinks that this man might be senile, as he looks so old. Deku would then introduce himself to Gran Torino as he says that his name is Izuku Midoriya. He would outstretch his hand as he tries to give it to Gran Torino to shake. Gran Torino takes his own small hand and puts it on Deku's palm, saying that he's a rather large one, isn't he? Deku would wonder what this means as Gran Torino suddenly starts flying around the walls and begins to get into a serious mode, asking if he truly knows how he can master One For All in that large body of his. As Gran Torino comes flying down on top of Deku and strikes him with a kick, Deku doesn't even move as he turns around, grabbing Gran Torino's leg and holding him there still. He then tells Gran Torino that even if he had used One For All, he probably could have hurt him too much, and that he only uses that ability whenever he is in desperate need of power, which he hasn't been in so far. He would then look at Gran Torino as Gran Torino is breathing heavy, seeing how strong this kid is. He decides that he's going to have to teach this kid how to focus on controlling his power, as if he would let it go rampant, he truly would be a Juggernaut, just ripping through people. This is when they begin training on how Deku can lower the percentage of output of Juggernaut as well as One for All. Gran Torino would explain how One for All, and the way, at least from what he knows, is similar to keeping a glass of water at the maximum output to the very top of the glass, without having it overflow too much or the glass crack. Deku tries to understand this as he thinks about it for a second. He sits on the ground, sits very still as he taps into his power. Deep inside of him, he opens up One for All as the gates flood open to the rest of his body. Suddenly, a red energy begins to surround Deku, as the greens and red sparks around his body are from that of One for All, of his spirit, and that of the red energy of his Juggernaut quirk. As the two quirks begin to power each other up, Deku can feel that his body has just been incredibly strengthened. He envisions the glass of water as he tries to keep the water inside of the glass and continuously spins it around. As he does this, as the water stays within the glass, he tries to charge One for All across throughout his body and lowering the percentage. He imagines taking the water and gently pulling some of it out as he drips it into a sink and lets it flow off into the ocean. As Deku allows the power to wane for a little bit, he notices immediately as his body begins to shrink in size. Deku's body begins to shrink down as it goes to that of the normal Deku we see in the show. Deku has completely turned off his mutation and One for All quirks now. Gran Torino opens his eyes and sees that Deku is shrunk now, and is completely surprised as well as Deku at this new ability that he's found. Deku had Juggernaut activated ever since it had started when he had first obtained the quirk, so he had never actually seen what his true body looks like without the effects of the quirk on it. Deku himself now realizes that he can use each of the quirks at will on their own, or use them together. He'd practice this for the next few days of Gran Torino, as he would continuously practice trying to make his body different sizes using Juggernaut and One for All. As he uses his power, he'd make his body, using Juggernaut, slightly bigger as well as a little bit more agile than what he would be at his full power of just using Juggernauts. This combined with One for All allows him to be more acrobatic as he tries to dodge and weave away from Gran Torino's attacks. After sweating for a while, he finally buffs back up into his main form, not being able to hold back as he had been doing before. He relaxes now as he realizes that what he had been doing is he had been concentrating on restraining his quirk rather than on lowering it. He works more on this restraining and lowering of the power in his quirks as he begins to gain more control over them. This is when Gran Torino decide that they need to head over to Hosu City to do some scouting, as he has to do some actual hero work. As Deku and Gran Torino are on the train, Deku uses his ability of now containing his power with One for All as a sort of gate, as he locks it up and lets himself be smaller, which puts him in a much more easier way of getting around. As Deku gets on the train and sits across from Gran Torino, suddenly he sees something. Out the window, a flying shape comes hurtling into the train, as a large crack of metal, an explosion as shards of shrapnel go flying throughout the train. Deku quickly would increase the size of his body mass as he releases all of the power of Juggernaut to go to his maximum form. As he uses this, he blocks the way so that no shrapnel can get into any of the citizens, as he uses his body as a shield. Gran Torino would activate his quirk as wind begins to push out of his feet. He shoots forward as a sound of air goes flying through the train, as he tackles the Nomu and goes flying out of the train itself. Deku would hold everyone back as he sees Gran Torino fighting with it, knowing that he can take care of himself. Deku would lead the train as it gets out to the station, where he helps everyone escape to safety. Deku would then get out of the train as he decides he has to catch up with Gran Torino. He quickly heightens his body mass and strength, as well as accesses 5% of One for All to increase his speed. He jumps into the air as he flies up onto the top of a building. As he lands, a soft crunch of stone beneath his feet echo. Him now in his hero costume, as he has the red costume with the metal iron helmet that he always wears, combined now. As he jumps from rooftop to rooftop, looking through each alleyway to see where Gran Torino could have gone, or where even Ida or the Killer Stain could be, as he had heard that he had been missing. Now thinking about what what had happened to his brother Ingenium, then he knew that he might have come to Hosu just to find him. As Deku would fly over one of the buildings, he would see a streak of red beneath, as he then quickly changes adjustments in midair and uses the strength of One for All to shoot a pulse of wind behind him. He goes flying into the ground as a large crash of dust and rocks go flying everywhere. He stands just in front as the sword is about to pierce into Ida and kill him and finish him off. Deku would grab the sword and shatter it with his bare hands as he looks into the Killer Stain's eyes. He would then tell Ida that he's here to save him and that they're going to get out of there. He is prepared to grab Ida as well as the other hero on the ground and run away. As he does so, grabbing the two and rushing out of the alleys, he throws them off into another corner so they can hide. He would then turn around just in time to see a blade coming towards his face, as he whacks it with his hands, throwing it out of its course, going out of the way. Stan would think that this guy is incredibly strong, almost to the degree of All Might, as you can see his body and muscle mass. Deku would begin to power up, as he tells him that once he gets going, Killer Stain, there's nothing that can stop him. He charges forward as a burst of red energy comes flying from behind him, as he comes rushing forward and punches into Stain, using his magical shield that he's created using psychic waves to push Stain to first, as he then crunches over him with a body with a tackle. Stain goes flying back as he crushed into the ground by Deku's overwhelming weight. Stain would begin coughing as he begins to try and get any blood to paralyze Deku so he can escape, or at least kill the other two before he leaves. He would inevitably get one cut on Deku as he pulls a blade from beneath his cloak and stabs under Deku while he's laying there. As he tries to lick Deku's blood, however, Deku would quickly grab the knife and throw it away, not knowing why he wants to lick his blood. Deku would have seen what had happened with Ida and how he was paralyzed from being his blood licked by Stain. Deku would pick up Stain as he throws him into the air like a rag doll. Stain would go flying up as he feels all his ligaments begin to bend. Deku would then fly up with one mighty punch as he jabs it directly into Stain's abdomen. Stain coughs up blood as he gets flung into the air as high as possible. Deku would then fall back to the ground as he waits for him to come flying down. Stain would crunch into the ground as a crater beneath him forms, with several of his bones being broken now. Inevitably, Deku would tie up Stain as he waits for him without having any issue. Todoroki would be coming by eventually as he sees now Deku waiting with Ida and this other hero with Stain captured. Todoroki would wonder what happened as Deku explains that he had just taken care of the villain. Ida would sigh, thinking that Midoriya had to save him again, as now Midoriya has been the one to take every victory so far. Ida would then thank Midoriya for coming to his rescue, however, and that was perfect timing. Deku would say it was no big deal, as he realizes he has to go catch up with Gran Torino. He would leave the Killer Stain of Todoroki and Ida, so that way they can report him to one of the custodies. As he walks out, a gray flying Nomu decides to come out of nowhere, as it flies from around a building which Gran Torino is chasing along with Endeavor. It tries to grab onto Deku, and just as it does so, Deku would grab both of its legs and hold it down, as his overwhelming weight was too heavy for the Nomu to carry. Endeavor would tell him to hold still as he creates the flaming arrow spear that he can, and chucks it towards the Nomu, hitting it in the brain, killing it. Deku would drop the villain as he then walks over to Gran Torino and Endeavor. Endeavor would see that this kid, or whatever this hero, is incredibly strong after being able to hold down that creature. He would thank him for his assistance in the battle and ask what his hero name was to thank him. Deku would then take his mask off as he shows that he's actually a high schooler, and that he came here with Gran Torino on a work-study mission. Gran Torino would then see that they had captured the Killer Stain, and Endeavor would get the credit just like in the original. Deku and Ida and Todoroki would be having a talk with the police director chief on how they shouldn't have incorporated themselves in the villain's attacks. Deku would apologize. He says that it was him who had taken out both of them, the Nomu and the Killer Stain, and that the other two, it wasn't their fault. Ida would then say that Todoroki had gotten there after the fight had taken place, so he hadn't done anything wrong. The police chief would sigh and say that he forgives them, and as he bows and thanks them for taking the killer on. He then says that the credit will go to the hero Endeavor, so that way there's no problems with students being involved in the incident. Deku would then return to school after their work studies had been over, as he walks into the classroom now at his normal size. As everyone turns around to see Deku, they are surprised when they see that he's his actual form without having any quirks activated. Bakugo would see this for the first time since he had been a younger child, and is surprised to see Deku not in his hulking massive form. Deku would say he learned a lot of stuff at the work studies, and everyone would be shocked as they say, "No kidding me." Deku would then be sitting down in class as everyone is beginning to get explained about how the final examinations would take place before their summer break. If you guys want to see the next part for What If Deku Was the Juggernaut, make sure to hit the like button, comment down below what you thought, and subscribe to the channel for more. I will see all of you people later. Before I go, however, though, I just want to let you guys know, the next few what ifs that'll be coming out will be What If Naruto was a Dragon Slayer, What If Naruto was an Avatar, and What If Naruto was the reincarnation of the Sage 6 Pass. Those are the next 3 that'll be coming out. I will see you guys later. Bye.